Welcome, Greg Peterson, to Fitted Health and Fitness Expo. Mate, it's a pleasure to have you on board today, mate. You're a man who's that I've been admiring for the last year now. And I've been checking out a lot of your rugby union games, especially with the United States. And you have this, what I've noticed about you, I don't know if it's on purpose, you have this essence of calmness on the footy field. And you have a great, just a presence on the rugby union field, and coming from a coaching perspective, that can't be taught, you know. So, mate, it's a credit to you, and I just wanted to know, first of all, like, from your background, that calmness that you deliver, is that on purpose, or do you find that that's just instilled into your personality?
I think that's part personality. I'm pretty laid back, chill bloke as it is, but there are times in the game where I do get amped up a little bit, but mainly, you can't have, I don't think, because obviously there's 15 people on the field, you can't have 15 people, rearing ready to go. There has to be that balance between cool, calm, and collect, and the hot heads and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it all the time with people shouting at other people, and those personalities can clash, especially on a contact sport. Those personalities can clash, which starts arguing in between the team. So, I just I always like to just shut up and get my job done. If I do my job, then the team will be in a better position. So,
yeah, exactly right, man. And so, yeah, because it is a team sport, so you need to have that cohesion together. So, mate, did you always want to be a rugby union player, like ever since you grew up? Because I hear a lot of stories that people they just always wanted to do it from a young kid. So did you feel the same way?
I always enjoyed it. I never thought it'd actually be. I never thought I'd be good enough to go up the professional avenue until I was pretty much 17, I think. I don't know. I remember it was just always a very clear moment, kind of when the pathway started. I think I was walking to dinner with the old man, and he just goes like, "Oh, the Australian schoolboys in 2009 have a tour to the UK. They only do it once every 4 years. And it's like, you're going to be on it." I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet, whatever, Dad. You just don't know what you're talking about and stuff." And at the time, I was obviously 16, and I'd only just made the New South Wales schools under 16 team, missed out on their Australian merit team and stuff. So I was like, "Oh, we'll see how it goes." And then kind of from there, the path unfolded a little bit. Like the following year, I made into the first and seconds group the first for school rugby and stuff. Then captain my school team the year after that. Made it all the way up. Played all the age group stuff all the way up to the schoolboy level. Went on that tour. Then got a contract from the Waratahs and stuff, and that kind of like unfolded, and it was kind of that key date where I was just like, "Oh yeah, we'll see how it goes," and then kind of everything unfolded and went ahead and started to kick off, and then like if I'm going to give it a try, then I want to try and be the best I can be. So
yeah, exactly right. And you touched on your dad giving you that conversation as a 16-year-old, and I know your parents firsthand, and like I know that they're a great support, and I know your lovely sister as well, who's my lovely girlfriend. That they seem like supportive people. How much of an influence do they have in your footy career, like helping you make the USA rugby union team and all that? Do they play a part, the support base?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the old man's very much, very much an advisor and a driver. And then mum's kind of like the fallback, if something's going wrong or something like that, I usually talk to her, and she kind of helps me, picks me back up and dusts me off and say, go back to work.
Yeah.
But then whenever I need, big decisions coming up or something like that, or I need a genuine opinion, usually that's the old man that I look to.
Yeah. And he's a very he's a very smart man as well, your old man. The other day I was actually just off topic, well, kind of on topic. We were chatting about my young guys that I'm coaching. So I'm coaching the under 21s and under 18s Italian rugby league team,
Yeah.
And I was speaking to him about why we keep losing, and we kept losing against Tonga, but we we were ahead at half time, and he said to me something that he goes, just one simple thing that really changed my perspective. He just said that you're just not training long enough. You're bashing and barging for 40 minutes, and he asked me how long do I train for, and I said, probably about 40 minutes, and he goes, it's an 80-minute game. So I'm like, wow, that's such a wealth of knowledge, something so simple, yet so effective. It's just so funny how I kept winning at half time and kept losing in the back end. So where does that knowledge? Has he always been like that? Then has he always guided you? Do you think he can definitely play more of a part in your future years in rugby union as well?
Oh, of course, yeah. Like you said, he's a very smart man. He's knowledgeable. He played football for a Big Ten college in the States, made the All American side. So in a sense, he's been in pretty much a professional setup. When you compare the collegiate level to anywhere else in the world, that's very much, that could be considered a high-end professional pathway, compared to almost any other sport. So he's been there, done that. He didn't pursue the actual professionalism in the NFL. He actually made the smarter decision by going to business school.
Yeah.
And yeah, just I think it's the mix of him being in that environment and also his knowledge of the business world. And he worked, like, his job is pretty much convincing people to lend him money. So he has to have all the options laid out and be 10 steps ahead, and be able to answer 100 questions in a 1 hour meeting or 10-minute meeting or something like that. He has to have all the answers. So he thinks things through very extensively. So
yeah,
I think he's very much a good advisor because he thinks ahead. I think a good example of that would have been there was nothing at one point in my career. There wasn't much coming up contract wise, and I nearly signed for a Pro D2 team called Narbonne. Not a bad team, not a bad city. They were doing okay, but that was in France and stuff. And I said to him, "Well, what do you think about this?" And I was kind of settled, like, "Oh, I'm ready to do something different, go somewhere else, and try something completely different." And he said, "You know what? Why don't we just hold off on it? There will be something around and stuff." And funny enough, I think later that week. I think that was on a Sunday or something like that. And I turned down the offer. Then later that week, Laurie Fisher from the ACT Brumbies got a hold of me. So, well, we'd like to meet you. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out. But that whole progression led to being a part of the USA Eagles, playing for the Leicester Tigers and now the Glasgow Warriors. So, if I hadn't held off, who knows? Like, I would have gone to France, probably grounded out in France for a year or two, and then maybe not done anything at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, mate, it's funny where life can take you sometimes, and you talk about professionalism, and the word that coincides with professionalism is hard work. So, how hard do you have to work to make it in your position that you are now?
A fair bit, but I think it's not just going to the gym and just whacking out, a 2-hour session, stuff like that. You have to be precise with the weaknesses you want to cover, and be able to cover those as effectively as possible. You could say you want to be fitter and sit on a bike for 2 hours and just get fitter, but if you don't know actually what you need to be fitter at, like whether it's lungs, legs, or just head, you need to know which one needs to be improved. So you need to train smart. I think they got that 3 circles where they all connect, where it's train hard, train smart. Can't remember the last one. Hard, smart. Yeah, I can't remember the last one. Consistently, that's it.
Yeah.
So if you train hard and consistently, but don't train smart, you're going to be wasting time. If you don't train hard and smart, but not consistently, you're going to fade out because you don't get that consistent skill repetition.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do, it gets that little trifecta in the middle, and you're killing it. So yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about just on, because I want to touch on a few different angles, with the mindset and nutrition and mobility and stuff. So just out of curiosity, what does your weekly conditioning and weights look like? I mean, obviously when you're not in the rehab stage.
So typically it depends on whether you played on the weekend or not. But I'll just try and think back to one point. Like I'll give you an example when I wasn't playing last year. I'd go. It'd be a typical kind of 9 to 5 or 9 to 4 training week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday being the captain's run game. Saturday, Monday we typically do have a units meeting, then a weight, like have an hour long weight session. That could consist of just usually probably lower body or something like that. Then we go out and do a unit session where we'd fix the things from the weekend that needed fixing. Then there'll be an afternoon session that would probably go for an hour and a half. And then towards the end of that, if you did or didn't play, or depending on how long you played on the weekend, you would have a physical top up, just an extra 10 minutes, 10 reps of just some hard yakka fitness. Tuesday would be the real big day. Again, that would be weights and a unit session in the morning, and then in the afternoon would be kind of like the high contact, a lot of running kind of stuff. All those sessions would go over an hour. Probably the afternoon session would go for an hour, 2 hours. Wednesday would be the day off, the recovery. So I'd either go to a pool and just do some laps or sit in a hot tub, or if I was feeling real stiff, I'd go in and get a massage or get some treatment on certain body parts. Thursday, that would be units in the morning, again weights, then a more relaxed afternoon session, probably about an hour long. Friday, if you weren't part of the squad of 26 to be a part on the Saturday, then you'd have like skills, weights, and conditioning. If you were, it'd just be they call it NAHP, which is like a neural priming. So you go do just a couple power movements and stuff like that. That would prime you for the game Saturday. You do that, and then you go out, do line-outs, captain's run, and done for the day. During that period that I wasn't playing, I'd typically go in either on the Saturday or the Sunday, just go in real early in the morning and do either a 10K bike just as quick as I could, or 10, 15K bike, or I'd do like a kind of a lactate build bike session, like 45 seconds on, minute 30 off. Try and get as many meters as you can, and try and just do 8 reps of those. So yeah.
Yeah, and it really is a full-time job, then, isn't it? Like people think that the life of a rugby player, it can be seen as quite easy. You just do a bit of fitness and you go out on the weekend and play footy, but it's actually a lot more than that, isn't it? So, and you touched on weights, I'm a smaller guy. I know I've been in the fitness industry for a while, but do you feel as though that there's some magic formula to be big and strong, or do you think it's just it's just lifting big weights?
No, I think it depends. I've seen. I think rugby is a beautiful example of it. Genetics play a huge role in it. You can have small guys that lift just a shit ton of weight, And you have big guys who can, lift just as much as him. I think a good example, like Rob Harley, he's a number 6. He's probably my age, maybe a little bit. Yeah, he's my age. Sorry. He's about 6'2", and probably weighs 105 kilos when wet, something like that.
Yeah.
Not a bit of a wiry guy, but some of the weight he can lift, like he can chin with, 50, 60 plus his body weight on him. Same with dip. Very strong body weight wise and very strong around the gym as it is. He always tests everybody, even though he's a smaller bloke. Mark Bennett, who went to the Olympics for the GB team. I used to do a lot of my powerlifting with him because he also enjoys it. He's just exceptionally powerful and strong in certain positions, but then other ones, he's not very good. I don't think there is a magic formula. There could be you could have just a very, very good program that's like perfectly tailored to yourself and how your body reacts to the weight stimulus. But it's just how your body reacts and being able to. I think it's also the feedback, how well your body reacts to. You can say, I'm getting to that point where I'm plateauing and stuff, and you don't feel like you're getting any better, then you can change it up real quick and do something different.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know that, you don't have that knowledge or feedback of your own body, then, you're just going to be squatting the same weight because you just peak out and you can't do much more.
Yeah. So I'm gathering more that it's about self-awareness, more than anything. Like with as being a rugby and an athlete in general, just knowing what your body needs at that present time and knowing your own capabilities. So, I mean, you're talking about some powerlifting movements and weights. So what type of exercises would be great to implement? First of all, for athletes, is there specific exercises that would help build a foundation? And for the general public, do you reckon that they can use these same exercises as well?
I think even if you're an athlete, like obviously, if you're an athlete, you can go to some of the higher end, like real power Olympic lifts and stuff like that. But even general public, it would still benefit you doing, squat, the basic lift, squats, deadlifts, cleans. Because, deadlift's just good all around, lower body, it works your entire body. And if you can get that technique perfectly right, and I think that's the main key for a lot of stuff, especially general public, is getting the technique right, then that can carry on to the rest of life. You go and try and fucking pick up a heavy box, your back's not going to be rounded, you're not going to be lifting it with your back. You're going to be lifting it with your glutes and your legs. Same with squats and everything like that. General fitness, general healthiness involves like a little bit of weights and stuff. Most people think, I'll go stand on a bike or the treadmill for half an hour and stuff, but the weights actually gets you more, burns more fat and better for your health than sitting on a bike does at times. Athlete wise, I think me personally, I think all athletes should be doing Olympic lifts and stuff because that's can be most applicable to whatever sport you play. Those lifts are powerful entire body movements that syncs the whole body together, and that's what it is. Whether you go from tennis, the power starts from the legs, the ground reaction force from your legs in the ground coming all the way up to the arms that in the end goes to the racket that hits the ball. Even if you go, just running, a deadlift, that whole posterior chain lift in a deadlift is the same as exploding out of the blocks, So those moves are very applicable to, anything you want to do in sport. You're able to master those, you're going to be in a good spot from the start.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you that I think you need to pay attention to more about your form and being patient with the weight that you lift, because I remember when I was a bit younger when, trying to make the footy teams and that, we're trying to lift too heavy too soon in essence, just trying to get big because we're in that, 18-year-old category. So, and I think we'll end up doing like 160, 200 kilo deadlifts, but then, you know, over a couple of month period, and you can lift it and you look great, but then your back's sore for the next,
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks because you haven't developed. So I definitely agree with you. You need to that those foundations are that those exercise or foundation movements, can be great for our program and need to be monitored in a safe, practical way as well. So, I think that one of the things for me was why I felt, why I kept getting little niggly injuries is the lack of mobility.
Yeah.
How important is mobility for pre-injury first?
Um, Usually, it's muscles tight. You're gonna stretch it at one point. Me personally, I have this weird, it'd be strange because I remember a couple of times in the past, I'd do heaps of, rolling out, stretching and stuff before sessions, and I'd feel absolutely brilliant during them. But then any type of exercise would just set me straight back to where I was, a certain tightness and, what was tight, this was, etc. And even if I didn't, like if I just did a little bit, if I did 5 minutes or 10% of the stretches and rollout routine that I did compared to last time, I wouldn't feel as good warming up, but I'd still go back to that par. I'd always hit back to par, and I wouldn't get worse than par.
Yeah.
So I think, and again, that comes to that self-awareness thing we were talking about. That my body, for me, I can only get so tight and so stiff and stuff like that. And I do take care of my body in that sense. If I am overly tight in one spot, I'll roll that out and I'll feel good. But in the same sense, I can't go. I'd like to be able to, but I can't. If I roll out for half an hour and I go train, then that goes back to par. So I feel like I can spend that time better, whether that's research before the meeting or something like that, getting extra things strapped, except even if we don't have 20 minutes to spare to do that rollout,
Yep.
So yeah, I think stretching and general prehab, is huge. Again, it comes down to self-awareness.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you said that word prehab because that's exactly what I was just about to bring up. And that's what a real buzzword in the athletic or the rugby league world anyway, and definitely the rugby union world that there's got to be an essence of prehab. And what just for people who don't know what prehab is just prevention of injury, or that's what we call it, prevention of injury. So we would have a set formula for the Rabbitohs boys. And it would be specific for every individual, but there'd be certain exercise that everyone would have to do, like the shoulder mobility, internal external rotations on a TheraBand, and the rollouts through through the foam rollers and stuff, and there was other ones as well. So we'd have to spend about 20 minutes. Is there a certain prehab 20 minutes that you use, or is it just like whatever you feel tight at that present time? Because we would have some structure to our one every day.
It comes down to the person. Myself, I just roll out what's tight. Typically, I'll do back, glutes, hammies, calves, and hip flexors. So the typically things that get the most bashed. Like TheraBand work in that sense. I don't do a lot of that. I'll typically, for shoulders and stuff, I have like a set workout almost with dumbbells and stuff that I used to work with on my shoulders. That was just general strength and mass building. But I know some players, they do a lot of glute med strength stuff because they got bad groins. and some players just need to go do 20 lunges with, bands around their ankles and knees and stuff and this and that. Some players just do. I think a good example was, from my sense at least, like I remember Rob Horn talking to me about it, who's Waratah, Wallaby and all that. He said like when he was younger or just coming into the Waratahs, he would just he was kind of following what some of the old boys were doing, and some were just running out and training, and he just kept blowing out his hamstring. And then he was like, oh, okay, well, if I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, he followed another old guy, and what he did, once again, blew out his hammy. So then he finally found out that he needed to switch on his glutes, switch on his hips, switch everything on around his, around his core and stuff, and warm that up thoroughly before he went out into the field. Otherwise hamstrings and groins take the total brunt of what he's trying to do. He's a very explosive player. And he's been doing like when I've been watching him from afar and stuff, he's staying out of the physio's room and staying on the paddock.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is amazing that you do need an essence of prehab these days, and a lot more old school athletes just run out the footy field, as you said, and I've seen a lot of people do that, and I feel as though that the evolution, and this is what I was going to ask you as well, the evolution's got to be, a lot more, firing your muscle groups in cohesion with each other instead of just, being single muscle groups. And that's where an essence of prehab and an essence of what you were talking about before, like using foundation movements like deadlifts and squats and stuff like that to get them all firing. So, mate, I know you're injured now. So, what type of exercise, or do you continuously do conditioning and weights while you've got this shoulder injury, and in your preseason?
So right now I haven't been doing a lot because the surgery I had was a latergy. It's a very extensive surgery. I was about 2 hours under the knife. So instead of just going about repairing the labrum in a typical soft tissue shoulder reconstruction, they actually sawed off the coracoid process and replaced that to where the glenoid cavity was faulty. So now instead of just having, just the soft tissue stopping my shoulder from popping out, I actually have a hard bony embankment plus one of the bicep insertions that go into the coracoid process. I have those two stopping it. So, I'm just over 2 weeks post-op. The wound's healed up fine. It's feeling good. But I'm still very limited because of the fact that they did a lot to that whole area, and they cut and moved a lot around, and they just want to get everything down, settled and stuff, Chances of the screws coming off and breaking, with it, very slim. Chance of me tearing my, subscap that they had to split that to get through to put the screws in. Chance of me tearing that, very slim and stuff.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, they're just like, look, there's no need you really doing anything. So I think it was only just the other day I started doing, 10K bikes and leg press. That's literally all I've done since I hurt my shoulder. So, during this period, it's going to be, a lot of bike, a lot of leg weights, a lot of right arm strength for the next couple of weeks. And then just also kind of supplementing that with different types of fitness like hikes, walks, etc., to keep the mind fresh, stair runs, stuff like that.
Yeah. Man, and I like that, and I think there's a lesson to learn in that, because when people in the general public scene and a lot of clients in the past, when they had an injury, they stop and they don't do anything, and they kind of build up a story around that injury in itself, where they're like, I can't do anything anymore, I've got this injury. So, I mean, what I'm gathering here is, even though that you are feeling limited with your injury, you still have to keep some form of exercise going for your mind and your body, as you said, for your hikes and stuff. So, is there any advice you could give people for in the general public that that they're feeling limited with their injuries? What they can do, like.
I've always seen, like, if you're injured, like earlier in the season, I had a lower limit injury, and I just thought, well, fuck, that means I can just get stronger upper body and I can work my shoulders more. Now, I've this would be my third shoulder reconstruction, and both times before then, I felt my legs have come out 10 times stronger, 10 times more stable. So, you just said, all right, well, I can get my legs stronger now. And it kind of works coincide because my legs were weak as piss before I did my shoulder. So it kind of works out. You can't I don't think you can let the excuses break you down either, because, you would have worked like the general public in a sense, they can be, very dedicated, but when something like that, happens, the mental strength goes out the window.
Yeah.
And
that's when we need it the most as well. That's when we need the mental strength the most, isn't it? Of
course. But you can't, like, maybe it's knowledge wise, I don't know, but it only takes I think less than a week for muscle to start breaking down and stuff like that, and the body using it for something else. It only takes, I think, 2 days or something for the fitness enzymes to start breaking down too, to start dissipating. So it doesn't take long. Like, I've been out of it far too long doing leg weights and stuff, and I can already feel just small things kicking up. So nothing big, nothing massive and stuff like that. But, I definitely do feel those factors kick in. But, in the same sense, I think mental health during an injury period is very much needed. You need to take some time away from what you're doing to, center yourself and find it all and then get back into it. But it shouldn't be, months after months after months, or until you feel 100%, whether it's your shoulder, your knee, your leg. It shouldn't be, oh, my knee feels 100% now, maybe I get back to training, because you're going to try and go back to what you were doing before. It's probably going to hurt 10 times more. And then, you didn't benefit during that time.
Yeah, definitely. And so, mate, we've touched on, programming and conditioning and weights and mobility. Onto a question of food. How important is food to your programming?
Obviously, whatever you put in the furnace will make it burn more. So, if you're throwing in wood in indifference to coal, the coal is going to burn better than the wood, and it's going to burn longer. So, me personally, I've been terrible, but that's been part of the mental health kind of thing recently. So, but like right now, I'm all about to change that up since I'm back in training and stuff. You have to have that balanced diet, but I also think you need to know what works best for you too. Me being the big bloke I've got a very high. I think I got tested once and I had a very high metabolism rate, but in the same sense, I don't feel that works. I don't feel that I do. I've always always struggled losing weight, and shredding down. But I've only just, like, kind of recently, or the past 2 years, been able to figure that all out. Whether it's a steady decline of weight, or it's the drastic one that I'll probably be doing this time or in the future now. But I think the thing I always think too, whether it's a training day, non-training day, or anything like that, it's energy in, energy out. So you got to think, if you got to produce a lot of energy that day, you got to put a lot of energy in yourself, Yeah. But if you're not, if it's a day off, it's a relaxed day, you're expending a lot less energy. So you got to put a lot less energy into your mouth. So that's kind of always the way I see it and break it down. And yeah.
Mate, and it's actually quite similar. Like, I've done a few of these collaborations with different people, and I had a conversation with Nick Cheadle, and he said a pretty similar thing. Nick Cheadle's is an athlete just like yourself, and he's more of a physique expert as well. So, and he said it's really simple. It's energy in versus energy out. It doesn't really matter as much. It does matter what you're putting in, but if you're putting out more than you're putting in, then you're going to lose weight and you're gonna tone up a lot more. So, and I know that we've been talking about different forms of our programs, and you touched on psychology there. How important is psychology? And do you block it out? Block that out in your regime to have that essence of like goal setting and sense of mindfulness through meditation or something like that. So, how important is that to your regime?
Yeah, it's strange. I've always had this strange relationship with goal setting, at least. Like, I like the long-term goals. I want to do this and this and this. I want to hit this. But in the same sense, my goals have always been very broad and they're very hard to, be able to, very hard to measure. Where it's just like, it's something just as basic as going like, I just want to have a good season, At the end of the season, I'll know whether or not I had a good season or not. Yeah. I'll be able to go, oh yeah, it was shit. No, it was real good. But in the same sense, it's hard. Like if I went to a coach or something like that, it's I just want to play well. He'll go, well, how are you going to play well? It's like, I don't know. So, being at the Glasgow Warriors, everything is measurable to them, absolutely everything. So it's kind of made it easier for me to be able to set the smaller goals, the game-to-game goals and stuff, because they'll have probably 50 plus stats that range everything from passes, offloads, tackles made, carries made, meters made, sorry, and even the smaller ones that other teams might do, like the ones that they like hit, hold, tackle, shotgun cleanouts, etc. Yeah. But all the way to the GPS data and stuff, they clock down walking percentage of the total game. So and that's made it easier for me to set goals for myself, game to game, week to week, and stuff. But in the same sense, I don't really like it because I can sit there and set a couple goals for myself pre-game. Like they have a set three goals or however many goals you want to set before each game, and you sit down in your type 5 group and you tell each other your goals. So then you become more accountable for it. If you just say it to yourself, then it can mean nothing because you can change them on the fly. But if you tell everybody else and, they can go, okay, he wanted to do this. Oh, yep, he got it. Oh, no, he didn't get that. I still don't, would I gauge myself if I had a good or bad game, whether I hit those goals or not? Not necessarily. I could do 2 out of the 3 goals, which might be classed as a bad game. But in the same sense, I did, 4 or 5 other things really well that I'd done better the week before, which you mean probably it's a better game. So me personally, I've always had a weird relationship with goal setting. I enjoy it and I like hitting goals, but in the same sense, it's very hard for me when the game is so chaotic. I don't like to think about it. You say, oh, I want to make 10 tackles. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. Games don't go that way. They might just not run towards you.
Yeah, so, I think that, mate, and I agree with you on that, like, because, you're saying I want to have a good game and that might be different every game. It might be just like if you're concentrating on having to make 10 tackles, then it almost takes the joy out of playing a little bit, So I'll give you a quick example. Like I did a similar process with the guys. Like I got the opportunity to do that coaching gig we were talking about with the young Azzurri, the young Italian boys. And what I got them to do, right? I got them to do an attacking goal and a defensive goal, and I printed them all. I didn't tell anyone. I printed them all out and I stuck them on, just like you said. But I stuck them on on before the game above where they were meant to be sitting in Bathurst where we were playing. Yeah, and I made them all look at each other's goals, and I was reading it myself, and it was funny how one of the players, he came. I looked at his goals, and one of it was like give great service from dummy half, like as halfback. And his defensive goal was make 20 tackles, but he put a third goal in, and excuse me, it was just meant to be a bit of a joke, but he said he wants to eat the soul of the opposition. And when I said that out loud, all the boys laughed about it, and he had a bit of a joke and that light-hearted feel. I mean, he's only 18 years old, and he stepped up and he played under 21s for us, but he got man of the match that game. Yeah. So, and why I feel as though he got man of the match was, he had his certain goals, but he also had an essence of humility and just wanting to have fun, where everyone was a little bit, it was just a bit serious. Obviously, footy's a serious game, and you're in a professional environment, but it's just funny how, what you were talking about, like your goal is broad, but then it doesn't take away the humility or the fun out of playing rugby. So I think that's important as well from my end.
Yeah, mate, at Glasgow we had plenty of Fijians and stuff, and they pretty much did the exact same. They didn't have a joke in their goals, but they just like one of their goals was to have fun and enjoy the game. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's also hugely important too.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what you're doing it for, So, mate, I was just thinking about, because a lot of people these days, like 1 and 2, it could be seen a bit of a down part of our conversation, but 1 and 2 people are at some stage do suffer from some form of depression or anxiety. I've had a bit of an experience growing up myself. And I had anxiety, but I realized as I grew up that it was actually anxiety is just the brink of your comfort zone. So I was okay with that. But I caught a young girl trying to commit suicide with kids being bullying her and stuff like that at school, and she was always anxious and stuff. So, mate, do you have any tips on because you're in the world stage? I mean, you played in the World Cup, for USA, and I'm sure that there'll be high anxious moments. Do you have any tips or advice for people who go through these experiences themselves?
I don't know. It will always pass. I think there's always a tipping point. Like I think, like you said, everybody has it. I've had it. Like last time I did my shoulder, I was pretty down and out of it. It was strange because I felt absolutely terrible, and I think it was when I hurt my shoulder to the point I had surgery, it was a good month-long period where I could just, you're not improving, you're not doing anything, you can't do anything. And that whole period I just had no purpose, and I felt very lost. And that had brought the mental buzz in my head down a fair bit. And as soon as I got the surgery, it changed completely because I again had my purpose. So, for the people, I can't relate with people that have had anxiety like yourself. But depression or feeling down wise and stuff, I think you have to, find your purpose, and just go do it. Whether it's, the 9-to-5 job just dragging you down or something, you got to find, an hour where you enjoy, that you look forward to. You can't say, "Oh, go quit your job" or anything like that. But I think it's finding that direction. Once you find the direction towards your passions, then that in turn, gives you drive, gives you the motivation to go do more and stuff. And you can plan about it because you know where you're heading. Whereas if you're just aimlessly steering around doing nothing, it's you're not going to get much better and not going to get better anytime quick. So I think you need to find that direction, that passion, that enthusiasm, whatever it may be, whether it's in a person, place, or a thing. You got to try and find it, and that will probably help you pull you out of that hole.
Yeah, mate, and yeah, there's definitely got to be an essence of purpose. You're definitely right in that sense, and I think that what I learned from growing up is where you said it's like pushing. You've got to push through it a little bit, because it does pass. So I think that I really gained a great concept and perspective of anxiety, or reducing anxiety, when when I went to this commando camp. We went for the Rabbitohs. We had to go to this commando camp. It was a couple of years ago, and this is where I really understood life a lot more, because they made us go through grueling hell training. Like, they were calling us swear words to the point where I thought my name was those swear words. So, and at the end of it, like, we were completely out of our comfort zone, and anxious and feeling like sleep deprived and stuff. And at the end of it, the commanders came to us and said that you got to push through adversity to show true character. So you got to push through times of stress. And that really clicked for me. I mean, I don't know if it clicks for other people. What do you think of that as a concept for people?
Yeah, I agree 100%. A couple of years ago, I was a part of the New South Wales Waratahs when Michael Checker was there, when he started to begin the whole transformation from being like the average, the doing okay Waratahs, to when they went and won it. And his whole theme about it was to become comfortable. No, to become comfortable while being uncomfortable, or being comfortable while uncomfortable. So, this thing, being in those, out of your comfort zones, and making those zones the new comfort zone. So, and that's always been, being comfortable, being hurt, tired, sore, not be able to breathe because you're just dying. And there was many sessions where, we would go into that dark place in your head and stuff. And, each time it didn't get easier to be in that dark place, but in the same sense, you could be in that place longer without breaking. So I definitely, I agree with that. Just being comfortable while uncomfortable is a huge mental toughness strength that you need.
Yeah. Mate, last question. I really appreciate your time as well, by the way. This has been an awesome insight. So, just on psychology, how important is visualization? Do you think that has a key?
Definitely. I while at school, I've read into it a lot, and I did a little course on sports psychology and stuff. Me personally, I haven't implemented it into my training a fair bit. Maybe I've done it separately, like, night before a game, I might think, I'll make 10 tackle busts and I'll do them like this and stuff like that. Just almost daydreaming about hopefully how well I'll play, etc. Yeah. Whether it coincides or not, I'm not too sure. But the times I do use it is when I struggle the most. When I struggle with learning line-out calls, it can be very complicated and it very complicated and long and extensive. So I'll go ahead and write them down on a board, then go through each call and kind of go through the motion both in my head and, if I have enough space to where I am, do it the foot pattern wise. Whether it's the actual skill execution, I don't necessarily visualize that a lot. Like whether it's passing a ball or something like that, I don't actually visualize that. I usually use it as a learning tool. When it's trying to remember plays, patterns, line out calls, scrum moves, etc. I use it mainly as a learning tool. So I'm a very visual person. I like to do it. And watch about it. It's very hard for me to learn something by just reading it or something like that. I need to watch someone do it and then do it myself and do it at least 2-3 times to have it down pat in my head.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's awesome, man. Mate, thank you so much for your time today. Good luck when you come back in February for the Glasgow Warriors. And
Yep.
mate, I'm looking forward to seeing you in another USA jersey as well, which I'm sure you deserve. And yeah, good luck with the rest of your career, mate. Hopefully, no more injuries come your way.
I'm sure there will be. It's rugby, so they always
Rugby.
come.
Exactly right. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for
Cheers.
the time, Liam. It was brilliant. Thank you.